implement their thoughts. Entrepreneurship, it's about having an idea to solve a problem and generate wealth through solving problems, providing services for people. So I want the youth to begin to look at entrepreneurship not just as wanting to be their own boss alone, because we need to. I've seen a lot of young people who are more entitled driven than profit driven. You know, when I started my company, it took me so much time before I could even indicate that I was the CEO of the company, because I felt that I was too young and people might not believe that I do such a thing. So when I talk to people, I rather tell them, oh, I'm a staff, even in my own company. So they believe me more. Oh, yes, okay. It means that there's a big boss somewhere. I was the boss. So you see, young people of 21 already putting CEO. So it's for them, and they're not making any. So to them, it's so entrepreneurs should be looking at profit. They should be more profit oriented than just. The time will come, you become the CEO of your company. So you want to solve a problem, and we are in a country that has numerous problems. So it's actually an opportunity for Nigerian youth to be more entrepreneurial now. There are problems with power, there are problems with just thinking of the easiest way to do what we currently do is creating opportunity for yourself and now making sure that what you do is being patronized by so many people. The place of plenty. So we talk about Facebook, we talk about this. It's just about having much subscriber. And one of the good things that happened to us in this generation is the advent of social media. Social media has now made it very easy. When we talk about musicians like Onyeka Onwenu, you begin to wonder how were those people able to market their products in those days when there was no social media. Now you talk about Rema, you talk about Wizkid. I don't think any of us have their CD, but everybody is listening to their song. So you can see, even if they release a song today, how was Ebenezer Obey? How were they able to do it those days? How were Okosun, Sonny Okosun? How were they able to do it those days? But now somebody will release a song in 1 minute and it's everywhere. So the technology, the AI technology, robotics, and the rest of them is really making entrepreneurship easy. It's a necessary development. You know why? Entrepreneurs of today must know that things are hard. One, it's either you increase salary very well so that those staffs you have are well paid, or you give them a way to enable them also have side gigs. You must. If you don't do that, believe me, you have staff stealing from what they are doing. One of the major reasons why there is high level of theft, compromise, disloyalty at workplace today is because of economic hardship. People are trying to survive. So they are tempted. Even the Bible says that I will not allow a saint to go through trials too long so that he will not put his hand in iniquity. You can see. So if you have a saint even in your company today and it's any 100,000, 150,000, 40,000, whatever, and it's not even enough to pay transport, and you don't give him that room and tell him, okay, don't worry, from henceforth I want you guys to close by 4. Don't come on Saturday and Sunday so that you can have time to do whatever I want to do. Deliberately create it for them. If you don't do that, they will start picking from your organization. So it's a necessary development that must be encouraged by even bosses now. Yes, you must encourage them. We now see people who now work remotely. Yes, if you know that some of your staff don't necessarily need to come to the office, you can still pay them. Allow them. See, things are changing now. You need to change with the change. If you don't, your business will die. And so for staff also, it's also a good time for them to. There's a lot of jobs out there. Locate all those websites where you can work remotely. Get those skills needed. A lot of companies, there are websites like Viva and many Fiverr, a lot of them that you can pick up a tax, get paid in dollars. There's many things. So get to learn those skills. Let me tell you something deep. Many entrepreneurs you see do well today actually stumbled into what opened a way for them. They were not initially, they never knew. I'm telling you, many stumbled and they got, a lot of them are still doing that same thing. When they find it difficult to even do something else, when they dabble into some other business, they run into loss. Some might be lucky. That tells you that even those who are entrepreneurs who are making it also could have that notion until something started working. If you don't start it, you will not know if it will work. So those who have the opinion that I don't think I am. They are wrong. The reason is because they have not. They might fail in 1 or 2 or 3 things. They should keep doing it. Thomas Edison did, as he had over 1,000 experiments to discover the light bulb. Said it was the 1,001. At 900, he would have said, "This is not my calling," and he give up. Every failed experiment leads is a step towards success. They need to know that. They need to change that mindset. Yes, I have tried it before, it didn't work. That doesn't mean that I am not. Yes, see, let me tell you, what is even entrepreneurship? Even that boss you think is a boss is working for somebody. Even, for example, talk about TV station. Even the boss is working for. We all need to work for somebody at the time, even in our business that we call ourselves a boss. So that is it. So even the position you sit and say you're correct salary, you're even a boss in that place. You don't know. You are serving a cause. So we can all do something. We need to change that mindset. Whoever have that mindset, you need to change it. What you need to do is keep engaging yourself in different things. No matter how much you fail, keep trying. One day you get it done. And some people said it's difficult for them to learn that skills. It's also a wrong notion. See, anything you need to learn that will bring success your way, you just have to learn it. Do you know there was a time opening a Facebook account was very complicated? To open a Google was complicated to many people, but you need to deliberately look at it, and suddenly it becomes easy for you. So let us have an open mind. There's nothing too complicated. Every complicated system has a unit. Once you understand the units, you put the units together, you know the system. So we just need to know it.
Momolen also shared on convertible skill set and what role capacity building plays in all of this, as well as financing. We'll bring you details of that after this break. Stay with us.
There's a thin line between wanting to do what you're currently doing. For example, we see a lot of people who work. I have staff, for example, someone might hear listening. So since our boss said we should go and work, then they want to go and do the same thing they are doing here, to sabotage what they are doing here. That's not what we mean. Even if you're going to do something, it must not be something that will defy the contract you have with what you are. For example, you might be working in media, and you're a public speaker. That doesn't stop you from speaking. And they can see there's a, but it's not like, oh, you want to, so that must be well defined. Then number 2, the role of capacity development is key. And how can we develop our capacity? It's an inherent talent we have, developing it. Some people even say that there's no talent. You must brush up that which you have. You know, when talent don't work hard works win. You get someone who work hard can be more successful than someone who is talented and never worked hard.
True.
So working hard to build that talent, it's what matters. But the first is to realize your talent. There's many people who don't even know what they have. I've met a lot of young people out there. I ask them, what is your gift? What area? Where is your strength? Say they don't know. Many, 90% of the youth don't even know. Everybody's just doing what everybody's doing. I want to do TikTok because Mr. B is doing it. Some people it work for them like that. But first, you need to know what you have. I got to know that I had the strength in marketing because I was serving as a fellowship leader in my university days. I was public secretary. And when I got that role, I said, wow, I can market, I can say anything. So I had to build that strength. I haven't discovered that. You discover your strength through volunteering, through active. Just keep doing things. Anywhere you find yourself, try to take a lead. When you do that, you know where you are weak and where you are strong. You cannot discover yourself when you are not participating in a thing. And it's so sad that so many youth will not want to do anything except they are paid. There's a time you must sacrifice. There's a time you get the reward. You must know those things. So when you're able to know, you might have multiple talents in speaking, you might have talent, and sometimes you might not even have talent. Necessity can even make you develop that skills. Yes, we see people go to public speaking schools. Nothing is wrong from you having a coach. You want to become like a pastor, like this pastor, enroll under that coach. It's a pity that we live in a country where pastors now become coach, even business coach. Pastors are spiritual leaders. They are not lawyers. They cannot advise you on legal cases. Pastors cannot advise you on businesses, except they have business of God. We have some pastors, but they are business coaches. In foreign countries, you have people who pay so much to have a coach. When you have a coach, the coach teaches you the rope, so you don't make so much mistakes to succeed. You get? So you can also enroll to have a coach. Look at somebody that have made it. Sincerely serve that person. Take that. I'm not talking about a mentor. A mentor is not from a coach. A mentor is somebody you look onto, but may not have time to teach you. But a coach is somebody who will tell you this, and you must be ready to learn. There are many daily needs product that people are now Amazon affiliate marketers. People are making so much money from affiliate marketing. You get, it's a big one. Number two is becoming a travel consultant. We now have a lot of Nigerians who want to travel to study abroad, who travel to Canada. Yes, traveling consultant means, it doesn't mean that you are the one presenting the visa. They are legal travel consultants who give advice and make money from getting admissions from students abroad. Is huge because many youth want to jackpot. So it's a big one also. Affiliate is one, travel consultant in another, telecommunication. We have a lot of businesses in telecommunication industries. You see a lot of people who do POS. Recently, I sent 100 POS to someone in Zamfara, and the guy I said, wow. I said, he sent to him, and I sent 100 POS through a particular bank. I said, give it to them. Each persons of these women were making about 3,000, 4,000 per day. Imagine if they are even remitting to him, maybe half of it. Imagine what you're making times 100 times. Like, it's even making more money. So there are little businesses out there that are needed on a daily basis. We talk about exportation. We have Nigerians in London, in UK, in US that needs our food. You can also study the business of exportation. We have solid minerals. We are now getting more alert with the gold that we have in Zamfara. Golds are in Abuja. Golds are in Osun. We have Columbite. Why can't you also just pick a bag and say, I'm going to a location and let me see what happens, get my license from, get a land use and get license, make it back, and start doing. There are many Chinese that are looking for this opportunity. We have the food businesses, the farm to the market is not being regulated. You see, a yam is being sold in Benue for 200 naira. That same yam get to Port Harcourt or any other city and it's being sold at 1,500. How can't you go inside the bush? See, there's a problem in Yoruba that says that it means that the money you make from what's it called? Physics does not smell. So you see people still want to wear this tie. There's so much money. Talk about real estate. You can start owning your land at cheap price. Go to local owners and say, give me this land, I'll pay you back when I sell it. And advertise. People want to buy plot because people believe that if we are in a country where people believe in inheritance, I must buy land, not because they don't have something. The other day I was talking to people and I said, have you guys made it? They said, we have not made it. I said, what do you have that makes you feel that at least you've achieved? One of the things they mention is land. People feel that once they have a landed property, it's an achievement. So why can't? So there's numerous things that one can do. Restaurant business is key. Like you say, online sales, online of food. People, we have Omalata, who supplies food here and there. There are so many businesses. Crèche schools is good business. You can start crèche in your house. People are doing it now. Like you have a flat and you have just one room you are using. There's nothing wrong. You can use 2 rooms, buy chairs, just register a business name, go to Ministry of Education, just notify them. It's legal already. And you can start having 6-10 children there. There's nothing too small to start with. When you start, you understand it better. From there, you move to the next level. There are businesses that can never afford up. Schooling, people must go to school. People must eat every day. You see, these two business, health also, and health is too regulated. So there are so many things. I will not advise anybody to go into car sales business now because many persons who have bought cars. Cars have now so expensive. People are now, nobody's even selling their car. They repair their local car. Upgrade is what they are doing now. So there are so many things that can be done. Once you discover your talent, you can market your talent, monetize your talent, and stop value your talent too. If you know that you're a musician, you don't need to start singing anyhow everywhere. Don't make it cheap. Let people, before people hear you sing, scarcity brings value. When something is not scarce, there's no value. So when you have this talent, make it scarce. Don't make it cheap. Yes, so those are part of the ways to monetize what you have. I'm going to talk as a local man here. I'm not going to say things that are very theoretical that is not realistic. Yes, we see people go for banks, they get loan, using loan app. I don't really advise anybody to start a business with such finances. For me, my own personal principle, truth be said, I have never collected loan to run my business. Never in my life. But I believe that, it could get to a level where I need loan just to improve. But to start, it might work for people. But the best form of capital is reputation. When you have reputation as a person, when people trust you, people will be ready to deliver to you and allow you to pay later. I'm telling you. Okay. There are many people doing business because capital money is what you need to buy something from somebody. I'm telling you that people that can. Let me give an example. Do you know that this unemployment we are talking about does not really affect people from the East? They don't understand what's going on unemployment because they have a system that works there, which is called what's called apprenticeship system. Except those that go to school that's waiting. But the local system in the East, the Igbo people, they serve them. So I don't know if you go to them and talk about unemployment, they don't understand unemployment. Their unemployment is that they don't have an uncle that will take them to serve them for 10 years and settle them. That's the system. Except those that have gone to school that are now waiting for. But I'm talking about the grassroots. So, and that's what we trust. So somebody met me and said, I want to start selling pure water. Please give me 500 naira. I said, walk to that woman. Tell that woman, give me one packet. I will come back with your money. If people can trust you, they will deliver their product to your hands. What I mean by the Igbos, many Igbos who are so rich today got the trust of Chinese people those days. And they were able to send them content. Some of them did not have 1 naira. Even the flight money to travel to China, they didn't have. I can tell you stories of many billionaires today. They started their business with that. They didn't have money. And before you can earn that trust, you must be able to speak confident to the person who is going to deliver that to you, to make you know that you are somebody that can multiply. All of us who are doing it, we need people to trust. The biggest challenge at a particular level of business is trust. When you find people you can trust, you will deliver that wealth to them. Yes, that is very key. So once you can develop trust by itself is the currency for exchange in business. So look at yourself, because we don't become great by who we know. It is by what people know us of. It is not who we know, it is who knows you, what they know you to be. And a lot of people know billionaire, yet they are not billionaire. We used to, it's who you know. No, it's not who you know, it is who knows you. And who knows you means what do they know of you? So that is very key, that is the most important thing. It is in that way family members can even now believe in your dream. That is a family member can say, because the best form of capital to supporting is when you go to people that knows you before. I want to do this. If they know you they will give you something. There was time I wanted to employ a driver. I said, go and bring a guarantor. He said, sir, nobody can guarantee me. Nobody. So and you want us to employ you? I said, I've done so much bad. Nobody wants to stand for me. Then you cannot employ you. So when first is to capital, you need self-trust. Work on yourself. If you are someone that are not be too straightforward to people before, if you are trying to change your attitude, if you want to go to business, believe me, you cannot make it far if you are not a straightforward person. Instead, you want to go into a business that is not straightforward. But if you want to go into a genuine business to make it and have the trust of your customer to do business with you, you must work on your attitude. Be a good person. Let people know you for what you are. Be trustworthy. Let your word be your word. Then after that, family member donation is key. I don't want you to go into a business where you take loan, especially in this kind of come on me today, and you stress you out, you cannot pay back, you'll be frustrated. But when family members support you and it's not loan, okay. Because somebody met me said, sir, I need 500,000, I gave the person 100,000, and the person was angry. I said, why? If you have 5 people like me, give you 500, you don't need to loan 500,000. True. So why are you angry? I've given you 500,000. So talk to another 4 people that can trust you. Then you will face that business without looking at, I need to pay back every week. Because sometimes you might need up to 6 months gestation period before you start making profit. And imagine you have collected loan and you need to start paying back that same month. It will even kill the business. So the first thing I would advise is self-trust. You need to develop that. The secondly, family member. Once you develop that self-trust, you will see money come. People are ready, and you must have confidence to defend whatever idea you have. Right. Yes, you must have confidence. You must now start looking at different form of partnership too. In Africa, we hate collaboration. We rather rival with ourselves than collaborate. Yes, be ready. Don't forget about people using you. Some people have ideas. I've seen people have ideas. They write proposal and they say, "I don't want to share my idea. You will steal my idea." See, there's no new idea. That idea, if I Google it, somebody else have done the idea. Be open. If you are starting an idea and someone wants to invest into your business, be open. Don't be greedy. Even if they say, I will get 30%, I will get 70%, just beg. It's better bringing the money. Don't worry. There are ways you write proposal that will not show that you are greedy. Give that proposal to people, let them fund it and run it. But first, like I said, trust is the biggest form of policy.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. From the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
Hello from Berlin, Germany. Nigeria is currently going through a recession. But what is the actual state of our economy? Is this as a result of the pandemic? Or there's more? Should religious organizations in the country be made to pay taxes? These are the conversations and the answers that you get to hear when you listen to these debaters.
Hello, I welcome you to today's episode of Matasada Imani. We're going to be talking about religion, youth, and money as it concerns the Nigerian people. My name is Mercy Aband. Nigeria has the 5th largest Christian population and the 6th largest Muslim population in the world. Pretty impressive figures. So what are the economic aspects of this fact? Let's talk about this in today's episode. I am not physically present with the guest at the studio because I was in close proximity with someone who tested positive to COVID. Even though I tested negative, I had to stay away for the safety of everyone in the studio. But I'd like to introduce our guest. I'll start with Timothy Imogere, who is a proud Nigerian student living in Germany. Hello, Timothy, welcome.
Hi, Messi. Thank you for having me here.
My next guest is Kumbi Oshinoiki. She runs a business in Germany. Hello, Kumbi, welcome.
Hello, nice to see you.
And Ada Anene is involved with data management, also living in Berlin. Hello, Ada, pleased to see you again.
Hello, Messi. Nice to meet you.
And we have Ebuka Valentine Okeke. He's a Nigerian student in Potsdam, also living in Germany. Hello, Ebuka.
Hello, Messi. Nice to meet you.
And finally, and not, as part of the guest in the studio, Tolulope Adefunke Omadara, another Nigerian student. Welcome.
Hi, Messi. Thanks for having me here.
Pleasure is mine. We have two callings from Nigeria, and our guest is Ose Anene. Mr. Ose Anene is a businessman, is a hotelier as well, and is a politician. Hello, Ndi Kato. Ndi is an active member of civil society in Nigeria, and she's a frontline activist in the country. I would like to talk with you about a very impressive, or actually I'll say important factor in Nigeria's reality, and that is religion and money. There is a lot that can be said or that has been said about this topic, but let's start somewhere. Nigeria is going through a historical recession at the moment. Poverty rates are on the rise. Should and could religious institutions contribute more to the economic relief of Nigerians? And this question I would like Kumbi to respond to. I would like to start with Kumbi.
Okay, I'm aware that there are lots of churches and mosques who have all sorts of programs that are aimed not just at providing relief to people in the communities, but also look to empower them through skills acquisition programs, trainings, and that kind of thing. So I think as part of their social mandate, a lot of religious bodies of all persuasions do this. Whether it's going to be enough to have enough impact on society in general, on the economy, is debatable. And also not all religious organizations are necessarily big enough to be able to provide the manpower needed to run a very comprehensive program that's going to make impact in their communities. But I do know that a lot of the big well-known churches and mosques do also a range of programs. Yes.
Thank you, Kumbi. Ada, from what Kumbi has said, we should not be seen to outsource the role of the state to religious institutions. Do you disagree?
I think that there should be a balance. I think the money of the people goes to both the government and the religious institutions. And the way that the religious institution can, put back into society more like a corporate, social responsibility, is to, create initiatives to help the people that they take care of. So I think it's not a bad idea. Like she said, there are actually churches that have these initiatives already running, like the mobile clinic run by some churches that I know. And so I think it's good that the church institution or the religious institution have these initiatives running, in support of the government.
Thank you so much, Ada. Ebuka.
Yeah.
do you agree, or would you subscribe to religious organizations, especially the ones that, we've seen, not just the church now and the mosque, to pay tax to the state for development?
I beg to disagree with such assumption, because as far as I'm concerned, is a kind of suggestion that is geared towards probably helping Nigeria escape the nets of recession. But the truth remains that churches originally are agents of socialization, and as far as I'm concerned, they should continue to play that role as agent of socialization. Their participation into economic activity of any kind should be a kind of mandatory, should be optional and not mandatory. Taxes should not be imposed on churches, because doing that have a lot to do in the area of churches carrying out their social responsibility of educating the people, inculcating the required national values in the people. Now, imposing taxes on them, I don't think it will have much to do with, or can in any way have a serious contribution to saving Nigeria from economic recession. So churches or religion should be detached totally from the economic mess that we find ourselves in.
Thank you, Ebuka. Tolu, I would like to ask you this. In the UK and other countries of the world, churches are known, these same churches that are in Nigeria are known to pay taxes. But when they get to Nigeria, they do not pay tax. And there's a conversation right now, and there's lobbying before the National Assembly, where people are saying, if these churches are making billions and millions of dollars, why should the state not take part in that? What would you say?
I think religion should remain separated from politics. If you compare maybe European countries to Nigeria, you will notice that there is a decline in the number of people that go to churches, because once religion is connected to politics, what we have is compulsion, whereby forcing people to do some particular things, and that is not good for religion. There should be competition, there should be freedom of religion and all that. If you look at countries where religion is not separated from politics, it's either religion is used for conflict reasons, or you see people not going to church anymore because they have to pay taxes. And it would discourage people from going to church, and they would before you know what, people won't learn the religious virtues that are very important for the society. Because let's take tithe for example. If the government says everybody should pay tithes, if it's a matter of compulsion, then it's also against the religion, because when you are doing something, you should do it out of joy, you should do it out of willingness and all that. So I think religion and politics should not be connected. Meanwhile, there might be religious bodies to check what the church is doing with the money. How are they helping the, what's it called? How are they helping the people, the church members, and all that? But not the religion.
Thank you. I would like to call in
politics.
at this point. I'd like to call in Ose to come into this conversation. Hello, Ose. Can you hear me?
Hi, Mercy.
Yes. Pleased to have you join.
Glad to be here again.
You're a businessman, so I'd like to hear your take from this. Do you think churches should be responsive and responsible in societies like Nigeria?
I'll also try to answer as a politician. And so in the first instance, I heard the previous speaker talk about a separation between the state and the church or the mosque. And what you do find is that in developed countries, that separation does exist and they pay taxes. But in Nigeria, for instance, there is an unholy marriage between religion and politics. So when campaign season comes around, for instance, if you're a serious politician, you would talk to the church and you would talk to Muslim clerics. When the state needs to speak to society, maybe to tackle security or whatever issues, we find that religious leaders are co-opted very deeply into these discussions to try to intervene in resolving these issues. So, that separation, I just want to make that clear that in Nigeria, that separation between the church, the mosque and the state doesn't really exist. Moving on to the conversation about whether religious bodies should pay tax, I also want to make it clear that the discussion isn't that members of churches should be compelled to pay tax. It's that if you have a church, for instance, where the senior pastor has 1 or 2 private jets, where he has private schools, where he sells merchandise, and he's making money as a business enterprise outside of, regular church activities, right? Away from ministering and healing and preaching, then I think it only makes sense that the religious bodies should be made to pay tax. That's my personal opinion. I don't see the reason why.
I like that you talked about education, because it's also part of the conversation that we're supposed to have today. We've seen churches, big churches, I wouldn't want to call the names, and we're saying churches more because they're the ones that are involved with most of the projects when it comes to churches, when it comes to schools, hospitals, etc., in the country. We've seen huge churches where school fees in some of these churches are not within the reach of even the middle class. And I'm sure you can correct me on this. How then would you support the argument that these churches or these organizations owned by religious bodies, be it the mosque or the church, makes huge sums from school fees and the state should not be seen to earn from it?
Well, so I'll speak. So for instance, Christians are supposed to pay 10% tithe. If you tithe as a Christian, it's 10%. In Nigeria, the VAT rate is 7.5%. So even if you were to tax a church, they would still be left with a 2.5% untaxed amount. Again, so I don't see the reason why an entity that's set up as a profit-making entity, and not just, it's not charity. My kids probably are unable to attend some of the more elite church school establishments. So it doesn't make sense to me that churches make money.
You fall under the Nigerian elite. I'm going to fact check you. You fall under the Nigerian elite. So to say that your children are unable to afford some of the schools by churches is,
I mean, you started this conversation by talking about a recession. So maybe 4 or 5 years ago, this statement would have been true. But Nigeria is currently the poverty capital of the world. So most Nigerians who were previous elites, we find ourselves on the pension line these days.
But also, just a final thought on that. Again, I'll go back to what Kumbi had said earlier on. The church is not supposed to be seen as, or the mosque as, agencies that replace the state. So in places where, they're already performing the functions of so, and that, they have to pay tax. Where do we call in the government? Will that be fair to churches who, over the years are literally standing in for the state?
So your question is an interesting one, and it sort of has 2 threads. So the first thing is the assumption that the church is stepping in or filling the gap for a state that is falling, that is failing. And that is sort of correct. There are pockets in the country where government and governance is absent, and churches, and not just churches, I'm happy Indy's on the call, civil society actually also stepping into the gap. But civil society is accountable. Civil society is accountable to donors, civil society is accountable to government, civil society is accountable to the people. And churches to this point are not. So I just want to make that distinction that even if they were to step into the gap, they need to be held accountable.
So would you support your political party to push for a bill that ensures that churches and mosques are made to pay taxes? I want to hear you on record.
I am an opposition party politician. It will be difficult to maybe when we win, we'll visit that conversation.
You had power for 15 years.
It would be a very unpopular policy plan to try to push through. Nigeria is a deeply religious country.
You have members in the National Assembly.
Nigeria is a deeply religious country, and any attempt, I think, ahead of an election to push through taxation of religious institutions would be seen as an attack on these institutions. So I don't think it will be very difficult to push it through just because we are a religious nation.
But you are convinced that this is something that should be pushed?
Personally, I am, yes, but I'm also a pragmatic politician, so I don't see it happening in the near future.
That's an interesting thing. Thank you so much, Ose Anini, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to go back now to the studio so I can get the feel of, everyone who is in the studio about what Ose just said. Can you perhaps react to some of the points raised by Mr. Anene?
Yeah, I mean, what he said was something that is very, it's a little bit controversial. At the same time, it's emotional. It's a topic that's very emotional because of...
Why is it emotional?
There are two things involved here. When we are talking, we focused on just one religion. We did not talk about the other. And that is why this law cannot be actually implemented in Nigeria, because it's going to be seen as just the victimization of just one religion and not the other. For example, it's not, Muslims are not obliged to pay 10% of their income, for example, or their wages or whatever the case might be to the mosque. Christians are, by whatever belief system they actually go for, so tithing or seed sowing or whatever the case might be. And you cannot say, okay, you're going to tax churches, and then churches contribute a huge amount to governance of whatever the case might be, and then mosques contribute nothing. This is going to be a little bit discriminatory. So that's why it's not going to work in Nigeria. There are politicians who have been talking about this. For example, El-Rufai was the champion of this, the present Kaduna State governor, but it wasn't going so well because it's a little bit sentimental when you actually talk about this whole thing, because it's one-sided. So this is what I have to say about that. So I don't see it happening in the nearest future because of the one-sidedness of the whole thing. But maybe if there's a way they can actually create a level playing field. However, I think our emphasis should not be on churches contributing financially to the government. We know there's a huge corruption problem when it comes to Africa and governance in Africa. So it's good to actually separate what the government does and what private sector does, whether it's churches or religious sectors like churches or mosques. I think what the church can do, we have a big problem here, like Ose said, with school fees and how maybe some churches have mega institutions, they have businesses. If a founder of a church registers a business like a university, that can be taxed, but not the church. We can separate that business, and that business can be taxed, but not the church. However, if we want to actually make religious institutions contribute to cases of recession, what I feel that can happen, because recession is not actually just the lack of money, but it actually has to do with internal policies and the external politics of the world, and maybe, for example, the pandemic, for example. If the church is to contribute or the mosque is to contribute, they should contribute with skill acquisition. Skill acquisition. Let me just give an example. I don't know if I have much time. If you can give me just 2 minutes to just say something, or 1 minute, sorry, Messi. If you can give me 1 minute to say something. For example, the reason why I believe the Goodluck Jonathan Almajiri school system failed was the focus. This is actually a pseudo-religious system in northern Nigeria. And what could have happened that could have maybe led to the success of that system, or what Jonathan was trying to do then, was that he could have converted the schools not to Western education acquiring centers, but skill acquisition centers. If this was the main focus, I'm very sure that it could have worked perfectly. Because you have 9 million out of school children, in Nigeria, for example, in northern Nigeria. If 9 million out of school children can be trained in skills in the next 10 years when they are teenagers or maybe when they are adults, then these children can actually contribute basically to the economy of the country.
Thank you for that intervention. Just a bit of a fact check. It's actually 13.5 million now out of school.
Okay.
So
yeah,
it's done 9.
more than that.
Hi, Kumbi. When you spoke earlier, I noticed you made an argument for the religious institutions. I'm trying as much as possible so we don't focus on the church. Religious institutions. But when an institution seems to make a whole lot of money from other businesses like schools, because we've seen primary, secondary, university, these are all schools at different level owned by churches. And if you go and find out the school fees, it's neck breaking, as it were. When you hear that number, do you still argue that with all of the interest that comes in by virtue of students who pay school fees, the state should not at some point reach out and say, you know what, we actually do deserve our taxes?
I have a very big problem with a blanket statement to say, oh, the state should collect the taxes, because we know that corruption is endemic in Nigeria. And I also have a big problem with the assumption that because an organization is making money, that is in itself wrong. We have, in the West, we have examples of lots of organizations that are philanthropic organizations whose purpose is to be social enterprises. So they have to make money in order to fund the causes that they support. And so I have no problem with any well-run organization making money for the purposes of contributing that money back into society. So not-for-profit is a valid business model, especially in a continent like Africa, where you do not have a recourse to public funds. We have no social security. And so if an organization is able to take the money that it receives from its congregation and multiply and grow that in order to contribute, to put that back into society, then that should be supported and applauded. What is missing, both in the tax system, the state-run taxation, and also in these organizations, the lack of scrutiny. That is what is missing. And so whether you're collecting the money from the churches because you feel that the operations are opaque, or you're giving it to the states whose operations are even more opaque, you're losing. It's a lose-lose situation. What we need is transparency. We need anybody who's collecting money under any guise to be able to account for how that money has come in and where that money has gone. And I think that we ought to be, the state should be supporting and putting in processes and laws that support organizations, especially in developing countries, to use whatever resources that they have to multiply that and to put that back into society. And for those organizations to have properly scrutinized, reporting structures. They have people that can be held accountable. They produce reports. They have a commission that oversees all of that. I support, provided it's done in an open and transparent way. But to collect money from organizations that are doing good and give it to politicians who are going to put it in their villages and build mansions with 7 swimming pools and all sorts of nonsense, I don't see how that is good for anybody. So I think everybody's issue is around transparency. I have no problem with anybody making money and multiplying that money in order to benefit the masses.
Ebuka, Kumbi just touched on something that I find very important to this conversation, and that is accountability. If you recall, perhaps in the 90s, if you were not too young to know that, in the 90s or in the 80s, we had schools owned by the Catholic Church. Let's use the Catholic Church as a case study now, right? And government took over these schools. Government took over these schools. And today, most of these schools, even the King's College in Lagos, they're mostly in dilapidated conditions as I speak. Do you then think that most of the Pentecostal churches now and some religious organizations stepping in to set up schools and stand in the gap and increasing school fees and, like we are rightly pointed out, do you think the point made by Kumbi that, accountability is an issue that we should not dismiss. Hence, the churches should not be seen to send the monies they're literally trying to raise to help the communities back to the state. Especially knowing that these same states are yet to account for even the schools that were handed over to them by the missionaries.
Okay, I think one of the basic problems facing Nigeria's socio-economic development is lack of accountability. Now, coming to schools, before now, when schools was under the church, there has been a good record of efficiency, seriousness, because it seems privatized enterprise in Nigeria function more than the ones that are under government. So based on the situation of Nigerian schools, I think I will subscribe to the suggestion or idea that the schools should go back to the mission so that there will be objectivity, so that there will be responsiveness and accountability, because ever since the school was handed over to the government, the accountability was eroded. It became totally unachievable. And I think that has been the issue facing Nigeria till date. Now, coming to taxing churches or religious institutions, I think he made a point. He said something about that Nigeria is deeply religious. And topics or issues like that, when it comes to whether the churches should be taxed or not, are things that we need to be very, very careful in handling. If not...
Thank you, Ebuka. I would like to call in Ndi Kato to join us. Hello, Ndi. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Mercy.
Good evening. Pleased to have you join.
Thank you for having me.
I think this is an important conversation for you because you're a member of the civil society organizations in Nigeria.
Yes,
and when Ose was speaking, he clearly did mention that the accountability mechanisms put in place for civil society. I just want you to react a bit to some of the conversations you've heard and you've listened to, and what you think about what the debate going on in the studio at the moment.
Well, for me, I remember today seeing something. I think I want to start on that note. A pastor, and you do know that with Nigeria, you can't put, a limit on how many or what people preach or how many religious organizations or bodies, preachers, Muslims or Christians, you can't really put anything on that. They keep going. So this pastor says, in this harsh economy, giving 10 naira as an offering is wickedness before God. And I remember my reaction to that was, I find it amusing that the Nigerian God cannot stabilize his own personal naira. I mean, if you cannot help us, can you at least not, equal your own personal naira to the dollar? One of the things I find back and forth with religion is that, the Nigerian gods outsource things to the Nigerians and the Nigerians outsource back to their gods. And we don't have any responsibility in between. And it's very upsetting. So for me, taxing the church is not so much about, will the government take care of the money or keep the money? What would happen to it? What is happening to my own tax? But it is a responsibility that we have to do. And some of these freedoms that we give religious organizations, we give to mosques, we give to, traditional worshipers at this point are nearly non-existent, but let's put them in there. And churches, some of these freedoms make them untouchable. And for me, I need institutions that would hold more Nigerians. I need processes that would hold more Nigerians accountable. And when we talk about how well they have functioned, still that sense of accountability is not there. When we talk about how good these schools were and all of that, if you look back at the process and everything that happened at the time when these schools held sway, even until today, there is no accountability. If students get rusticated, you can ask questions. If a child drowns in a bucket or in a drum from a religious school, you can't ask questions. You can ask questions in a school owned by non-religious organizations. If a child gets raped and get justice, you can really get that on this hand. These are untouchables. And for me, again, the process, this conversation about taxation for me is about responsibility, is about reducing the number of untouchables in Nigeria. And, with Ose's conversation, Mercy, with Ose's conversation, you brought something about the government. I can't really remember it word for word, but I feel like, these things are not mutually exclusive. That you can hold the government accountable. You can accept that they are failing, they have failed, they are stealing, this is not right. And we can do this with religious houses too. And all of these steps actually come together to make a better Nigerian society. I just don't live for any society where anybody is untouchable or we think
Andy, I am happy you're reacting. I am happy you're reacting to this because you have an academic background. Your mother is a professor. You literally had to grow up in an entire academic environment when you were growing up as a child. At least I know that history. But I want you to respond honestly to this. Would you say that government has been responsive and responsible when it comes to education in Nigeria?
Of course not. Totally not. The Nigerian government has not been responsible with anything. I would try to wrap my head here and we'll be here the entire time. The Nigerian government is completely irresponsible. There's not a single sector.
So why then should the church, pay taxes to an institution that has not shown accountability?
Well, Mercy, this is the point with the untouchables. Why aren't you asking that question for me? Because I pay taxes and the government still steals. But we've not had the conversation about why not Nigerians? Why are Nigerians still paying tax? Why are we still wasting our time seeing as the government steals it? We don't give exceptions for the average Nigerian. So that conversation for me doesn't really come up, because if it is because the government steals, then nobody should pay tax. If it is because the government steals, we should keep advocating for further, destruction of the Nigerian state, or further, what would I call this thing now? Further breakdown of everything. Like, okay, let's all rule ourselves, let's do everything, scatter it all to the ground. We should continue to advocate for that and say nobody should obey laws because the government is irresponsible. Wake up and do as you feel because the government is irresponsible. Now, if we don't make that excuse for the average Nigerian or for the average Nigerian institution, knowing very well that these processes are also put in place for a state to function, and that we are hoping and we're working actively towards the government getting better. We're fighting for human rights. We're fighting for electoral reforms. We're fighting for processes that would strengthen institutions within Nigeria. And now in the process of this fight, we can't wait. We can't say, oh, because this hasn't happened, then this shouldn't happen. These things are not mutually exclusive. The government is irresponsible. We're making steps to ensure that we get strong institutions, that whether or not a Buhari happens, a Trump happens in Nigeria, whatever happens in Nigeria, the person cannot trump these institutions, cannot trump the strength of these institutions. That is what we're pushing for. And in that process, also pushing for people or organizations that are not untouchable. This is very important because these kinds of things make it very possible for Nigerians to breed demagogues. This is a country where extremism is rife, demagoguery is rife, like there are always untouchable. Once we have made heroes out of people, okay, this person cannot be questioned. And for me, being able to question religious institutions in Nigeria, to put them through the test of conforming, for me, that is a very important step. And it's less about whether, oh, they are using their money to feed the poor. I'm using my money to feed the poor, Messi. Check my local government, and I still pay tax. I still pay tax. Many Nigerians are paying black tax, or as we'll call it, the Nigerian tax. Also, will be feeding people in the village. Messi, you are doing the same. Almost everybody does this. I have my own borehole. I pay for my own water. I pay for most of my electricity in Nigeria. I pay for my security in Nigeria, and I still pay tax. I still pay tax. So it's just not excusable for me. It's not excusable. And let's be clear. Okay, carry on.
Thanks for that point. I will definitely go back to that. I will have to ask the people in the studio, but I will not let you go without asking you this question. Nigeria currently has 13.5 million out-of-school children. Perhaps with COVID, that number is likely to go up. And this is, and of this number, about 10 million is in northern Nigeria. You are a northerner.
Yeah.
Do you think Al-Majiri should be abolished?
Of course it should be. It's modern day slavery. These children go through a lot. I would like to paint, back when my mom was still alive, the University of Abuja Staff Quarters has this clinic, and they usually bring the boys. And I remember they brought one time I went there for treatment, and they brought one boy. He was close to death. And the malam was like, they should just give him the drug. And the nurse was like, you can't give this child this drug. He's going to die. He hasn't eaten. Has he eaten? Just give it to him. Just give it to him. And we learned that that boy died. We learned a couple of days later he died. There's no accountability for that, nothing. I've also seen the sister of that same Malam, sexually exploiting those boys, asking them to fan her, everything. The process for the Almajiri around University of Abuja, the children around there, was that they had to go beg for money and bring a certain amount daily. And if they failed to bring that amount daily, they had to go and fetch firewood and bring to the Malam's place. Now, the original thing behind Almajirinchi is that, these children are supposed to learn the Quran under this person and be itinerant preachers. But that is not the case. Even the initial case is wrong. There's no way that underage children should leave home and then go to a place to learn to be itinerant teachers under a system that is not properly regulated. And now, even that particular abuse that we're saying the initial idea is wrong, it has gone way beyond that. This is parents, absconding from responsibility, a region actually committed to bearing kids, a culture that permits bearing kids with no intention of being responsible for them, putting these children into the streets and ensuring they just keep going. I do liken what the Northerner has become to Lord of the Rings. There are these creatures called Urukai that were created by Saruman. And that is what the Northerner has become. There is no value to life, nothing. You're just brought in, you're created in that factory. Okay, just come out.
Can you also see that these are the points you just raised is perhaps a fallout of the lack of accountability within the religious system that the state has not properly managed.
Of course. But carry on, please, Mercy.
Would you then say that regulation of activities by some of the imams needs to be put in check? Because beyond the fact that I bet a child and just send a child to a Malam, is because there's a system that allows it to perpetuate. Yeah. So how can we then have a country that controls and manages that process in a way where we do not wake up one morning and we have 13 million out of school children doing nothing?
So first of all, we need to criminalize the act of sending your child to Almajiri schools. We really need to criminalize it. The first step for me is the parents. The parents have to bear responsibility. But also, first of all, Northern Nigeria needs to accept that it has a problem and that some of the cultural practices within Northern Nigeria are very harmful to the nation, harmful to the North. Whether we think or there was a thought initially that this was going to be beneficial, we're no longer at that point. When people say we're sitting on a keg of gunpowder, no, the keg has exploded. Northern Nigeria is sinking and, of course, carrying Nigeria down with it. So at this point, after accepting that point, the first thing is to criminalize this and criminalize it on the side of the parents and on the side of the Malams. We're seeing that, this is not being done. And yes, you are right. It is part of that thing of not holding religious groups responsible. Even for that, you saw how it was difficult for us to make a definite statement about taxing the church. It's the same way it's kind of difficult to make a definite statement about these Malams. But the more you are allowing, the more it continues to fester. And any group of people can actually carry any group of boys, indoctrinate them, and release them onto the streets. We are seeing the result of that in Northern Nigeria. Nobody asks that when the Almajiri goes, where does he go? Nobody asks those questions. So the Northern example is enough for Nigeria to know that at this point, everything must be questioned. And it's not just the religious organizations themselves, it is the religious idea. Nigerians must learn to question and hold accountable everything, from ideas to the bodies that perpetuate these ideas. And I do hope that I'm quoted anywhere. I will run for office. I have run for office. I'm also a politician, but somebody has to say these things.
Thank you so much, Ndi, for your time.
Thank you for having me, Mercy.
Ndi said, if you listen to what Ndi's argument is clearly the fact that there's been no, at best, actual accountability from the state does not mean the role of the state should not, the state should not be strengthened, from what I got from what Ndi said. Do you think she has a point?
I think Ndi said something that was very important, and she said these things are not competing, and we need reform, full stop. Okay, we need reform in the way the state is being run. We need reform in the way religious organizations are overseen and supervised. We just need root and branch reform to get rid of the rot. The rot is deep, okay, and it's pervasive. All right. So I don't think, again, I'll come back to my point. The issue is not accountability. I don't think anybody who's responsible is not going to have any problem with being accountable. Okay, I have a problem where one party is demanding accountability of another, where they themselves are not they're not following the rules that they have written. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So I think you can do more harm than good if you don't find a balance. And the problem in Nigeria is that there's so many chicken and egg situations. It's difficult to work out where to break that cycle. Do you understand? But I think asking questions is important, and that's something else Ndidi was saying, and I totally agree with her. You have to ask questions. Ask questions of your religious leaders, ask questions of your politicians, ask questions of, you know, the guys in power. Anybody that wields power should not be inscrutable. You have to be able to ask questions. They have to be able to give account for their actions. And I think when the whole Sorosoke movement started, I think it was an awakening of the fact that we have a civic responsibility as Nigerians to ask questions of those in authority and to hold them to account. And people are only beginning to wake up to the powers that they have to recall their senators and, you know, to petition their parliaments and all this stuff that we haven't been doing. We're very good at sitting at home, wringing our hands and complaining. And we're very good at going on Twitter and shouting. But, you know, to use the powers that we already have to hold our politicians and our religious leaders to account. We're not doing it. And I think we need to start doing so. And in the process of doing that, we need to have, you know, the reforms we're looking for. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I noticed Ose raised his hand. Ose, are you with us?
I am.
Yes.
I just wanted to, you know, throw the fox into the hen coop. In northern Nigeria or in Nigerian politics, you know, and in democracies everywhere, it's supposed to be, you know, a game of numbers. The majority has their way. And, you know, one benefit the North, you know, enjoys over the rest of the country is that as a voting bloc, they are the largest, almost homogeneous voting bloc, almost to the point where the North decides who becomes the president of Nigeria, and any other section can only, or the impression is that you can only get it if the North cedes it to you. You know, so there appears to be a strategic, you know, argument behind, you know, the population, you know, drive that we see happening in the North, because those little kids you see are voters. So whilst, you know, the South might be more prosperous, the North is more powerful politically at this point in time. And, you know, asking them to give up that power is something I don't see them doing.
Perhaps can I just get a reaction from Tolulope before we get back to Ndi? Because I noticed Ndi is raising her hands as well. Tolu?
Okay, what I have to say about this is we should ask ourselves who is normally responsible for economic development in the country. It's the government. And another question is, have they really done their role in this as well? The problem is the corruption rate in Nigeria is too much, and we see that the religious organization is developed more, they are more active than the government. They provide for their people and all that. I think that is why they are so active in matters that concerns the state. I know that they have indirectly a role to play, but at the same time we need a state that is able to develop the country, and there should be uniform laws that govern the north and the south. But there's a lot of
contradictions with what you said.
Okay.
At some point, I find you know, agreeing within yourself about the same issue.
Okay, maybe I don't understand your question.
I'll go to Ndi.
Okay.
Ndi wanted to say something. Thank you, Tolulope.
Okay.
Okay. I'll get to Tolulope's point, but I don't want to lose the point which I'm trying to make. Just throwing in another fox with Ose's fox in the fire at this point is that, you know, these complaints or this conversation we're having is that one part of the nation actually operates that decentralized system that we're talking about, but does not come out to say it. So, for example, Northern Nigeria has the penal code. as gender activists, when we're pushing for women's rights, you do know that in northern Nigeria, the penal code permits that women can be beaten. Your husband can be, and that law is different from what obtains in the south. So the north has laws that are for it. The north has the police. We talked about the Hisba police, and it's just now like Yoruba land, for example, is trying to catch on with Amotekun. The north has specific things that they put to ensure that this region runs differently. We're looking at the Zamfara issue with the gold. They have the rules. What we are aiming for as a nation is happening there. The restructuring we're talking about, we have a part of the nation that has restructured to benefit the monolith it wants to exist as, which is primarily 2 tribes and 1 religion, right? They have created that system, and then we're all living like that system does not exist. We're all living like, anybody who suggests that such a system should happen in Nigeria is strange, but it's not. I want us to accept that some of these strange things that you're feeling like, I can't seem to find the answer to this. This is like this. It looks like, wait, what? It looks odd. No, it is happening. It is happening that a part of Nigeria is doing its own, it has restructured, but it's functioning with the illusion of no restructuring, benefiting from no restructuring at the federal level while acting as a restructured body at this level. This side does not tolerate alcohol, but this side will benefit. So some of these things, we have to look at them closely. Perhaps there is another time for conversation for that. But that is a really, really important conversation we need to have with respect to Nigeria, because every time you're talking and you see that something is missing, perhaps these links should come and we should discuss those. And with respect to the church does not get the scrutiny the government gets. The church is not in the news every day. None of your big churches gets this scrutiny that, Buhari's government, for example, or let's say the mosque. None of your big mosques get the scrutiny that Buhari's government gets daily. Every day we're like, this is what the economy looks like today. They are fetching from pension funds. And yes, they are fetching from pension funds, almost all of it. So you guys should check into that. But we're doing all of that. But nobody's really looking at it and saying, well, today the pastor withdrew another big chunk of money. These are the number of people. This is the theft going on in here. None of those checks are going on in there. So we tend to just let them run free. If it was on the same level, you would see that, no, this rot is the same, and the help you think is coming does not really balance with how much is going into those institutions. Yes, we do not think that mosques give tithes, but they actually do give a lot of offerings, and money goes into these things, people fund these things. Perhaps some of the taxation should include looking into the accounts of these organizations.
What is the solution, Ndi? What then is the solution to the Nigerian problem as identified by everybody?
Well, Nigeria needs to have a conversation about restructuring. Abuja needs to be a weak center, if it needs to be a center at all. Nigeria needs to be restructured. We are too heterogeneous to run the way we're running. Every Nigerian state or region has to be competitive and provide for itself. What we have right now is a rent-seeking state. So with a rent-seeking state, there is no responsibility. If, for example, Zamfara needs to cater for itself without collecting money from Port Harcourt's coffers or from the oil from that place, people will have a proper conversation about dropping a lot of children. They won't be dropping children and thinking of them as numbers for elections. If you had to provide for yourself, you would have to start having the conversation. Okay, we want to have these numbers up. We're thinking of Almajiri and not saying anything about it, but we need to provide the funds and figure it out on how to balance this out. If that is the situation Nigeria finds itself, most of these things will not be happening. And so when the restructuring conversation comes up, we tend to make it look like, these people don't like the North, these people don't like the South. No, it's actually going to enable a Nigeria that is more responsible. Because as a state, if you know that your state is not functional and no Port Harcourt oil, no Bayelsa oil is coming to save you, you will behave yourself. Right now, we have governors who don't have to have any ideas. They have run out of money. They have gone to the pension fund to fetch 6-point-something trillion naira. Where is that money coming from? We know how the whole circle of the oil rent state or the oil state we are dealing with here is. So we have governors who are not going to have to think up any great ideas for their state. What are these governors going to do? They are just managers. Money comes in, they do. Money comes in, they do. And that is why we're having no ideas, nothing. You have our president. Our president, what did they commissioned 104 buses the other day. And I laughed. I said, I come from Jamaa local government. What is 104 buses? Even for Jamaa local government in Kaduna State, that is not enough. And so this oil states, this petrol state has made everyone lazy. It is a business arrangement. Everybody feels like they can just come in and benefit from this state and go. Nobody has any ideas and it's not working. Nigeria must restructure.
Thank you, Ndikatu. Let's get a closing statement from Timothy, Kumbi, Ada, Ebuka, and Tolulope, so we can wrap this up. Thank you so much indeed. Hello, Timothy. Can we get a closing remark?
I think what Indy said is very, very, very true. I mean, it's very, very crazy. I'm from the southern part of Nigeria, but I was born and bred in the north. I lived in Kaduna State. I know quite a lot about Jama local government in Kaduna State. I live in Zamfara State also, so I was there when the whole Sharia thing started in year 2000, 2001, etc. And it's quite crazy to actually see that a state benefits so much from taxes from Guinness and etc., Heineken and the rest of them, and then you destroy beers that are coming into your state. This thing it's not happening right now. It has been happening in year 2000. Lorries were burnt. A lot of stuff were destroyed. So this is actually quite crazy. And like what she said, the northern part of Nigeria is actually running a different system from the southern part of Nigeria. The southern part of Nigeria is secular. The whole thing that pertains to the governance of that section of the country is different from, for example, the north that runs a kind of pseudo-fiscal federalism, whereby each region controls their resources. Each region has control over their police, the Hizbah police. They have their own kind of laws, etc. So this has to change, and restructuring is actually the only answer. And finally, as regards the whole thing about, she talked about taxing the church and the rest of them. I still don't agree with what she says completely, because I would say you can tax the church when it starts doing business. So you can target the business of a church, for example, when they begin to collect school fees, for example, when they have universities. That should be taxed. But the tithes that people pay to the church should not be taxed. This is a religious obligation that people have to fulfill. It's not a business.
Thank you, Timothy.
And it should not be taxed.
Okay, so I just want to say that Indy is absolutely right. We have to restructure. And I think actually that decision is going to be made for us. Because the one thing that we have been relying on and all these years, oil, the demand for it all over the world is rapidly declining. In 10 years' time, nobody's going to be manufacturing cars that are driven by petrol. So we have to restructure. When the money dries up and nobody can rely on the money from Bayelsa or whatever state, everybody should be living off their IGRs. Okay? Those state governors should find a way of generating revenues internally and living off that. And when we start to do that, I think we'll see that some of the changes we're looking for.
At the end of the day, it falls down to making that separation. What the government should handle and what the religious institutions can do. It's not mandatory, but it's their responsibility. It's a responsibility they need to give back to the society. And we need to come to that point where we need to understand this, that at the end of the day, it is the government fulfilling their duties to its citizens. The state, as in we have relied so long on us. We have self-governed ourselves for so long. We have fixed up the things that have gone wrong all by ourselves. And right now, it's about time that the government takes charge of its responsibilities and begins to do it, not looking at the religious bodies, but fixing it first for themselves and by themselves.
For themselves and by themselves. Ebuka.
Nigerian governmental system always have a way of suppressing a cause that would have been of immense advantage to the nation. Now, there has been clamor for restructuring across the geopolitical regions of Nigeria. And you see the system and the people that run the system, especially the politicians, they do all they could to suppress that national urgent need. And as far as Nigeria is concerned, restructuring remains the basic solution to Nigerian problem. Because when we restructure, we need to come to the drawing board. We need to have serious renegotiation. We need to have a lot of national discussions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Tolulope.
Okay.
Finally.
I think I also support restructuring because this will ensure competitiveness as well among the states. Each state government will be able to think and meet the needs of their people. So I really support restructuring instead of a government just being elected and just performing ceremonial role without, they don't even understand what it is to do strategic planning. So when there is decentralization, each state will be able to, think of a very good strategic plan that will favor their states and implementation and evaluation, because then each state would be getting resources according to their productivity. So I think decentralization is very important. Then as regards churches paying tax, I think the question is, what has the government also done to support churches? It should be vice versa. Okay, so I don't think we are there yet where churches have to pay tax, because presently they are doing actually more for their people than the government, I will say. Who do the people run to when they have problem? Most times it's churches that help people get through their emotional needs and some of the needs that they have.
Thank you, Tolu, for your input. I want to say thank you again to our guests. Ose Anene Ndikato, your inputs, brilliant inputs. Kumbi, Timothy, Ada, Ebuka, and Tolulokwe. Thank you to everyone watching and those that are going to watch much later. I want to say goodbye to our viewers from Berlin, Germany. See you next time. My name is Mercy Aban.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. From the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshukeye.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Event is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. Right, no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild.
This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
And a very good evening. I am Emmanuel Olubobukun on this is a news update. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has affirmed Governor Ahmadu Finteri's re-election in Adamawa State, dismissing an appeal filed by APC candidate Senator Aisha Dahiru Binani. The court ruled the appeal vague and did not set aside the early judgments of the Adamawa State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal, which upheld Finteri's victory.
Fentori received 430,861 votes in a supplementary election, defeating Binani of the APC. Binani accused the election of corrupt practices and non-compliance with Electoral Act provisions. Also, Federal Court in Abuja has also restrained the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, from conducting fresh election to fill the seats of the 26 Rivers House of Assembly members who defected from People's Democratic Party, PDP, to All Progressive Congress, APC. Justice Donatus Okorowo, who gave the ruling in an ex parte motion moved by counsel to the defected lawmakers, Peter Ono, also restrained INEC, PDP, and the House of Assembly from declaring their seats vacant and also withdrawing their respective certificates of returns pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice. Justice Okorowo equally gave an interim order of injunction restraining all the defendants from interfering with or impeding in any way or attempting to interfere with or impede in a way the performance of the applicant's official and legislative functions as the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, and members respectively of the Rivers State House of Assembly, pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice. Now, the Rivers State chapter of All Progressive Congress has welcomed 27 state lawmakers who joined from the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Now, the lawmakers were received in a ceremony where they accused the PDP of masterminding the arson of the Rivers State Assembly. PDP called on the Independent National Electoral Commission to declare the lawmakers' seats vacated. However, Okocha claims that the defectors can meet and make laws at any place regardless of the PDP score. Edison A., the Speaker of the Edison Group of Rivers State House of Assembly, has requested by-elections to replace 25 lawmakers whose seats were declared vacant. A member of the lawmakers loyal to Governor Sim Fubara declared the seats of lawmakers who defected from People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the All Progressive Congress, APC, vacant. He wrote to INEC in a letter dated 14th December 2023 requesting a by-election to fill the vacant seats. They also directed the Accountant General of the state to suspend the payment of salaries and emolument due to the former lawmakers. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, plans to hold by-elections and rerun elections across Nigeria on February 4th, 2024 to fill vacancies in the state and the federal legislature. Now, the Commission's chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, announced that after litigation, the courts have ordered rerun elections in 34 federal and state constituencies. By-elections will be held to fill vacancies created by resignation or death of members. An authentic date and also timetable will be released after the meeting with party leaders. And still on news updates, Anis Indigbo President General Emmanuel Iwunyawu has stated that the Igbo people in Nigeria have accepted President Bola Tinubu as the constitutional elected president, while also appealing for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the deposed indigenous people of Biafra. Now, the IPOB has also criticized Kanu's detention as unconstitutional and also called for a referendum. Now, Nwanyawu's consultation with other Igbo people confirmed their acceptance of Tinubu as the president and his potential assistance in releasing Kanu. And I'll move on to other parts of Africa. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi won the presidential election with 89.6% of the votes, securing a new 6-year term. The nation's the National Elections Authority reported an unprecedented 66.8% turnout among Egypt's 67 million voters. Over 39 million voters cast their ballots for Sisi, who has been in office for a decade. The election comes amid multiple crises in Egypt, including inflation at 36.4%, currency loss, and rising food prices. The country has 2/3 of the population living below or above the poverty line. In 2014 and 2018, Sisi won with over 96% of the vote. And straight outside Africa, Ukrainian troops are facing shortages of artillery shells and have scaled back some military operations due to a shortfall of foreign assistance, according to Brigadier General Alexander. Now, the shortage of post-Soviet shells is affecting the entire front line, and the drop in foreign military aid is impacting the battlefield. Ukrainian forces are redistributing shells and replanning tanks to provide for them. Now, Russian forces also face ammunition problems as Ukrainian forces still expect victories but would benefit from reserves to rotate and rest them. Now, in business cooperative organization, Universal Learning Direct Academia, ULDA, in partnership with Dams Enterprises Limited, have invited all cooperators, both in London and Lagos, Nigeria, to take delivery of the first 8 semi-detached terrace bungalow apartments at the Bluestone Garden City. The handing over of the keys to the apartments took place at the ULDA cooperatives inside the Bluestone Garden City along Mowell Fund Road, Ogun State. Now, correspondent Paul George reports.
These men and women at the site have come together to help solve one of the common problems of humanity, shelter. On this massive land, they have planned to build 185 affordable housing units along with their partners. The president of ULDA, Lagos and Global, Engineer Olawumi Gaspar, explained why the initiative is important. London branch managing director of the organization, Kola Aregbe, reassured the cooperators of their commitment in completing the project.
We decided to form a cooperative society, and knowing fully well that that's the best way that we can pool funds. Is a success story. Our cooperators can come over to see what it looks like. But I can assure our cooperators that we're all partners, we're all working together. It will be available at a very, very reasonable price, better than the market price. In the next 2 years, we will have delivered fully 185 units.
We've come to first inspect, the work that's gone on so far, in this estate. Which is basically owned by a number of members of the cooperative. In addition to actually providing shelter, the people involved in the actual construction are those that have gone through the tutelage and training by our construction arm.
The investor and financier of most of the housing projects, Omolara Hassan, is excited at the level of work done so far. Meanwhile, the financial secretary of the cooperators, Antonia Eke, said there is a window of opportunity for people to be beneficiaries as it will be reopened after the completion of the project.
I know about ULDA from UK, and we decided to partner with them. Although they own the land, but we did the funding to build the properties. As you can see, we did this within, I think, around 6 months, 6 to 8 months. I am very, very satisfied because I can see that all the money that we put out there to help build the property, they put the money into good use.
Window presently for admitting new members into the cooperative has been closed for a while. There will be, of course, opening of the windows for new people, but for now, we are just want to satisfy those that have invested their confidence on us. Our phone numbers is on our website www.ordercorp.org. Can reach us every information you need to get across to us.
Members witnessed the handing over of the keys to one of the apartments to the beneficiaries. Paul George, Plus TV News.
Yes, congratulations is in order. Now move on straight to entertainment news. It was a celebration of a life well spent as the late Selimota Olale Elizabeth Onosoya, mother of former Chief Executive Officer of First Bank of Nigeria, Dr. Olabisi Onosoya, is laid to rest. The event organized in Lagos had Royal Highnesses, businessmen and managing directors of banks, among others, in attendance. Also, a correspondent, Paul George, was there.
Different groups, family members, and friends gathered at the Abundant Life Baptist Church, Ikorodu, to pay their last respect to Mama, the late Selimot Olaleye Elizabeth Onosoya, as her remains were ushered into the church. The pastor gave words of exhortation and prayers.
Jesus knew her. God knew her. She wasn't a church goer. She wasn't just going to church to mark attendance. She was a disciple. And not only that, she was a philanthropist. So when a believer, when a lover of Jesus dies, he goes home, he goes to sleep, he goes to rest.
At the reception, class of 1978 of the Eko Boys High School, where the deceased son, Chief Dr. Olabisi Onosonya, attended, were visibly represented. There were mixed feelings for the children, family and guests as glowing tributes poured in. The first son, Dr. Olabisi Onosonya, eulogized his late mother, speaking volumes of her selflessness and indelible mark she left.
She was the most humble person I've ever met in my life. A very dedicated woman, a very pious woman. Every moment that I spent with her was a moment to remember. And I learned a lot from her. Her native intelligence was second to none. And she brought us up to be pious and dedicated, to be God-fearing, and to respect every other person that comes around us. She was a great woman, a very hardworking woman, and I will miss her.
Dr. Onosonya said he would not think twice to have her as a mother all over again if reincarnation is possible. His wife, Helen, recounted the numerous encounters with Mama and how she treated them with love.
There's no doubt about that. She's the greatest mom that ever lived, and I still have not recovered from the shock of her death, even though we were prepared for that death. May her soul rest in peace.
She was a wonderful mother. She cooks the kokore for us, so she takes care of us. She's good with everybody, even in our area. They call her Mama Ijebu. Mama Ijebu is an awesome woman. When her mother was alive, she used to personally cook for her mother, her mom. She will ground pepper. Ijebu, kokore, she will do it for the mother. Yes, so of course now, why not? And the son too is very good, wonderful. He raised the children very well. So I love him, I love Mama, I love everything about Mama. Mama did well. May her soul gentle soul rest in perfect peace.
Former Ogun State Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Otumba Dayo Adeneye and Tunde Kpeku also paid tribute, saying it is joyful that our children can carry on the Onosonya's legacy.
We are more than friends. We are from the same hometown, like 2 streets down from each other in Ibefu, in Odogbolu local government. Mama was very dedicated to our children and to our family. And you can see by the caliber of children that she raised. And you can also see by the kind of caliber of people that are here from all over Ijebu, from all over Ogun State, all over Nigeria. So we pray that God will grant her eternal life. And we pray that the family that she left behind, God will strengthen them and give them the fortitude to carry on and continue to make the Onosonya family proud.
If you have the grace of God, you will live long and you live well. And if you are a prayerful mother, your children will get to greater heights. For this day, this is a day that is a day of grace. Because many people don't live as long as 88 years. But she lived 88 years and she has children that are successful, that are going to raise her name above the bar she has set for them. I pray for the family that God will give them all long life, to see their own children, and see their children grow. And take off the shoes. No, if you have a shoe and your child shoe, your leg of your child can fit in that shoe, you are blessed.
Late Selimot Olale Elizabeth Onosonya died at the age of 88. Paul George, Plus TV News.
And that's the news update. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel on Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on Limex.tv and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. I am Emmanuel Olubobokun. Many thanks for watching.
Is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria?
Necessity is the mother of all invention, and there is nowhere more filled with invention than the tech space. From the dawn of human existence, our innovative spirit has always directly correlated with our needs, which often have a social component. As they say, your ideas belong to you, but your inventions belong to everyone. Certainly, there is a question of whether innovators owe the world a duty to make it a better place. In today's world, the most ubiquitous piece of technology is the mobile phone. The history of mobile phones dates back to 1908, when a US patent was issued in Kentucky for a wireless telephone. Yet, it took till 1940 for engineers working at AT&T to develop cells for mobile phone base stations. This led to an early form of mobile phones, which were really just two-way radios. On the 3rd of April 1973, Motorola was the first company to mass produce the first handheld mobile phone, and more manufacturers subsequently got in on the act. By August 2001, mobile phones were introduced in Nigeria, and since then have become available to both the old and the young. It has influenced the way we socialize, listen to music, and has turned every amateur into a pro photographer. Today, most mobile phones rely on 3G or 4G technology, with 5G on the immediate horizon. The evolution of the technology to smartphones has raised the bar of personal computing. To help us understand what mobile phones represent to our society today, we spoke to a telecoms expert and an entrepreneur who gave us their impressions and opinions on the tech.
I'm a telecoms expert. I've had trainings in information technologies for my bachelor's and postgraduate studies. Presently, I work with one of the biggest operators in the continent, Africa.
I'm a dentist. I'm also a fabric and fashion entrepreneur.
Mobile phone has bridged the gap for communications and connectivity between people, regardless of their distance, can communicate and interact. As it were before, we would have to send letters that would take days and possibly weeks or months, or you would have to travel long distances to connect with loved ones and friends.
My husband most times is not home, he's not around. Imagine if we didn't have mobile phones, communication would have been an issue. With my mobile phone, I can reach out to him, video call, normal calls, we communicate, even my kids.
Conducting business with international and even local partners has never been easier, with mobile banking now commonplace and video conferencing available on the go.
E-commerce or banking. If you need to pay for a service, you don't have to go to your bank, withdraw the money from the teller and go and pay. We have cashless systems where you could use your phone from your app, pay for your services.
So I can imagine what I would have done with my business without mobile phones. I get most of my customers online using my phone. They make payments. Almost all my transactions are via my mobile phone. Nobody wants to go to the bank to carry out any transactions, so most of it happens on the phone. Local transactions, international transactions. With phones, I post pictures. I reach out to my suppliers anywhere and everywhere in the world with my phone, and I get my products using my phone. Especially because I don't have a physical store, I don't have a shop, so my business is online. So it makes it mobile, so I can run my business from anywhere. Sometimes I'm out of the country and I'm still running my business just because I have my phone.
Smartphones offer us greater computing power than the computers NASA used in 1969 to launch the Apollo 11 space shuttle to the moon. These operated with floppy disks, offering kilobytes or megabytes of storage at the most. Today, the storage capacity of smartphones can reach as high as 128 gigabytes.
If I don't have to go to the bank, and then carry out transactions with my mobile app, it's a plus. If I don't have to go to the grocery store and request for grocery from the comfort of my home with my mobile phone, it's a plus. But if we begin to use the mobile phone in a wrong way, then it becomes harmful.
The greater social awareness afforded by mobile phones has made us more self-conscious, with a constant need to own the latest version as a symbol of social status. Our obsession with documenting our lives through pictures and videos has turned us into an attention-seeking people, and even voyeurs consuming other people's lives for entertainment.
Because we have put our information, put our lives, because you have social media services where you can post your pictures, you can post your location at any time. You can post about your family, your children, your events, wedding ceremonies, graduation ceremonies, and all of that. So you become vulnerable even to strangers. People you don't know have access to your information. Some people even put their location. You enable your GPS location and it states, okay, I'm taking this picture from Lagos. So they know this person is in Lagos this day, this week. So their informations, hitherto we think it's just fun. I'm just letting the world know where I am, but your privacy is being eroded and you are giving out too much information to people, strangers you don't know. And it's very, very alarming that people don't even understand the harm they cause themselves. You put your home address, you put details of your work or details of your family online, and you just expose them to attacks from strangers, to unnecessary scrutiny.
Yet, with such potential dangers of mobile phone usage, not everyone is concerned.
Funny enough, no. I don't know why, for some reasons. Maybe because I'm careful with the things I put on my phone. Of course, you won't put too personal stuffs on the phone, very personal things. You won't put them on your phone.
In today's world, mobile phones can be a valuable educational tool, and parents are faced with personal considerations over when to allow their children own one.
I'll probably say secondary school. For example, if you had to pick up the child or drop off the child somewhere, the child might need a mobile phone for you to reach the child. I remember we started having phones when we were in secondary school, when phones came out.
The efficiency that comes with being able to access information. Prior to now, for students, if you are doing a research, you might need to go to the library and book for a particular textbook, and it takes you a while before it gets your turn for you to have access to that textbook. But from the comfort of your home or from your classroom, wherever, you could turn up your phone and search for an ebook, and that ebook becomes instrumental for you to carry out your assignments or carry out your research, as the case may be.
However, there is also a cost to young people and their education. The distraction it offers makes concentration on schoolwork and other things harder for them.
The negative effect mobile phones will have on young people is their overdependency on the information they get from mobile phones. Some people get distracted by some content that they see or lured into vices that becomes harmful to them.
The greater dependence on mobile phones has created less need for a personal computer. And this trend portends a future where personal computers become a relic of the past.
Personal computer? I can't remember the last time I opened my laptop.
The way we're going, yes, because your mobile phone is more or less like a computer. You can draft your letters, you can check your emails, you can attend meetings, you can edit your documents with your phone. So in the long run, your mobile phone should be able to do all the functions you are able to do with your computers.
For as much good as mobile phones offer us, there's just as much bad. There's a question of whether we are socially evolved enough to keep up with the evolution of our technology. The irony of a device created to make us feel more connected is that more people are feeling more isolated than ever. And the worry for our society is if we can find that elusive balance. We must always ask ourselves if our dependence on technology, as symbolized by how we use our mobile phones, is a good thing for our social health.
From north to south and east to west, life in Nigeria has become dangerously unbearable. The country is faced with what seems to be endless waves of homegrown security threats and violence. Nigerians live in fear, from terrorism to kidnappings, armed banditry, farmer-herder clashes, ethnic violence, and separatist agitation. To better understand the causes of the unrest, as well as the true agitations of the people, Searchlight travels across Nigeria.
The bandits, I use the dark place, the forest place, to hang around. When our drivers reach there, they will come out and start shooting them.
In fact, if I can give an estimate, I can say that in a week we used to treat not less than five gunshots.
people and people living under siege.
Now, Owerri is too hot.
No rest of mind. Kò sí fọkànbalẹ̀ kankan fẹ́ anybody.
If you sleep now, sleep with one eye closed, one eye open. Be vigilant. This is Igbora for you.
Igbora is one of the 7 communities that make up Ibarapa land.
Ibarapa land comprises of Igangan, Erua, Ayete, Takpa, Idere, Lanlate, and Igbora in Oyo State, Nigeria's southwest region. There is a long-standing history dating back to the early 20th century between settler herders who are mostly of Fulani descent and local farmers in the Ibarapa axis. Recently, however, coexistence has become increasingly problematic as the communities are now plagued with kidnappings, farmer herder clashes, reprisal attacks leading to the forceful ejection of Sarakins and Fulanis in the area.
I have been back home here in Igbora since January because of the armed herders and farmers crisis that has been rocking nearby villages and farms. Although the Sarakin Fulani of Ngongo, Salihu, was evicted in January on accusations that he was helping evade justice, not much has changed. There are still incidences of kidnappings and attacks on farmlands.
This is Shekere village in Igbora. We live in fear. I do come earlier in the day and could enter the farm. You would find their cattle eating crops, and when confronted, they attack the owners of the farm. If perchance they meet a woman unaccompanied on the farm, she could be raped. There is no safety on farmlands.
The nomadic ones are moving around. The residential ones, we know them. Some of the residential ones are still within the community. They are peaceful. One incident occurred when our people they are outraged and they burnt all the karas in the whole Ibarapa land, even that of Erua. In Igbora here now, there's no kara again.
If you had burnt all the karas in the whole of Ibarapa land, I want to think that Kara is a place for residential Fulani.
No, Kara is a spot, a market for them to come and buy and sell.
So you have burnt.
Do you know? Come,
their economic spots.
Let me tell you some things about that Kara. Some things we discover about that Kara, especially that of Igbora here. That spot is a spot where they do hide their ammunitions. And in the night like this, they will pick up those ammunitions, go out, kidnaps, rob, anything they can do. And when they come back to town the following day.
Kabir, you've done a lot of work out of the Ibarapa land. What did you see? What do you know? Can you share your first-hand experience?
Not just in Igbora, not just in Lanlate, not just in Oyo State, but from my experience across the Southwest states, I realized that most of the killings, the kidnappings being perpetrated are being done by the Bororos, who are mostly referred to as foreigners. Some of these Bororos, they come into the country through Benin Republic, some through Cameroon, and you get to realize that in the essence of it all, some through Niger, that many of them are not the traditional Fulanis. And the reason is this. We've had cases where traditional Fulanis, those who are Nigerians, some of them who came from, who are from Kwara State, also alleged that they have also been kidnapped. They've also been victims of the attacks of these persons. Most times, those that perpetrate this act, they don't even have any cattle. All they have is gun, sword, and other weapons.
The violence doesn't end there. Nigeria is faced with the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast, banditry in the northwest, armed separatist agitations in the southeast, amid communal clashes in the Middle Belt, southwest, and south-south. Increasingly, violence between herders and farming communities is spreading from Nigeria's central belt southward, while kidnappings are rife nationwide. What exactly led to this?
When you see a failure of this scale, of this magnitude, and spread right across the country, the first thing that comes to your mind is that somebody somewhere who has responsibilities to secure Nigerians has failed in their duties. There's no other explanation for this. So we have a country that is poorly run, poorly governed, and therefore unable to master the requirements of securing both citizens and the country itself. That is the first one. The second one is that there are a lot of opportunistic criminal activities going on. People understand the weaknesses, they perceive a weakness at the level of the state. They think the state is weak or the state is incapable of protecting citizens from all sorts of attacks, bandits, kidnappers, insurgencies, insurrections, secessionists, irredentists. All these people actually exist because the state has not been able to assert its obligation and responsibilities to protect citizens. And they are emerging and increasing by the day. The third one is the failure of the Nigerian elite to get together and demand that the Nigerian state does what it's supposed to do. The leadership does what they are supposed to do, that is to protect citizens. The voices that are supposed to be heard are not being heard. Too many people are quiet, either out of fear or because they think that they are not likely to make any impact if they don't raise their voices.
Traveling by road is now an extreme sport. On our trip to Kaduna State, we drove along the Kaduna-Benin-Gwari Road. The 123-kilometer road trip seemed easy enough, but we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. From Buruku village, right on the outskirts of Kaduna, there is a fully armored vehicle with soldiers who lead drivers 3 cars at a time from Buruku to Odoa town. This stretch is considered to be the most dangerous. Drivers have to wait their turn as they stand no chance of traveling safely to and fro Benin-Gwari without these escorts. From Odoa, the journey to Benin-Gwari is considered safe from the kidnappers and terrorists, whose victims are not just travelers but also villagers and farmers in and around this long stretch of road.
Our major problem in this area is insecurity. These terrorists have wrecked our town and destroyed our source of livelihood. Nobody sleeps in this town anymore. We take refuge in the neighboring community and come here every day at 8 or 9 a.m. and then leave at 3 or 4 p.m. Look at me. I'm the village head of this community. I used to own a car, but these criminals made me sell it to pay ransom for our children. I can't estimate how much we have paid to bandits as ransom because this community has been attacked more than 25 times.
We have a lot of problems in terms of insecurity on our road, more especially in between Burku and Udawa. So we have a lot of insecurity. We have only one vehicle, which is mobile police. They are the one escorting our members to carry them to Burku. Let's say from January up to now, at least we lost more than 30 of our members as a result of the bandits.
Forests in Nigeria are now hideouts for cattle rustlers, highway robbers, kidnappers, and terrorists due to the absence of state capacity or political will to exercise control. From Binigwari Forest in Kaduna to Rugu Forest in Katsina and Zafe in Zamfara, these forests are now referred to as ungoverned.
Erena is in Niger, Shiroro. From there you cross over to Folware. What security measures have we put in place for farmers and the indigents that are easy prey to these bandits?
Well, I have explained to you that Kaduna is very vast. The state is so huge. We had over 46,000 square kilometers. And I have also explained to you that we are having this problem mostly in locations that are remote. You know, boundaries with Niger State, boundaries with Zamfara, boundaries with Katsina State. You know, the locations are very remote. Even if there's a distress call, before you get there, it takes you time because of the terrain, mobility problem. But the Air Force is complementing the ground troops and the police as well. Once we receive a distress call from a location that is very far, what we do, the Air Force move while the ground troops and the police form a blocking force, you know, and it is really yielding positive mark. We don't have enough boots on the ground. There's a need for us to scale up recruitment. There's a need for security operatives or our security agencies to outnumber the criminals. We are not relenting. We are working and we are making progress. In the first quarter of 2021, we were able to neutralize 64 bandits.
Our schools, just like our roads, have become hotspots of violence. Across northwestern Nigeria, from Zamfara to Kebbi, Kaduna, and Niger, about 1,000 students of primary schools, secondary schools, and even universities have been kidnapped since December 2020. Most have been released after payment of ransom, while scores are still being held in forest camps. Some of these students have died in captivity, and some killed during the abductions. Earlier this year, after the kidnapping of students at Government Science College, Kagara, Niger State, I asked the governor, Malam Abubakar Sani Bello, if a state could guarantee the safety of school children.
No one can guarantee that unless we have the numbers, the manpower of security personnel required. The Niger State, for example, during the military administrations, Niger State had 14,000 policemen. Today we have 4,000. Same Rafi local government where this kidnapping took place, Kagara town itself has less than 10 policemen. So how will it work? How? What magic could you do? We don't employ or employ policemen. I understand in the past, the state police command had the powers to employ policemen from the states, but it is no longer like that. And that's probably the reason why we're having problems.
That was back in March. Not much has changed since. Many have said that the present centralized structure of the Nigerian police is too detached from local communities.
of votes conducted by NOI polls indicates that many Nigerians are in favor of state policing to bring security closer to the people. Experts say there is a need to reflect on the current security approach across the country.
The various institutions need to sit back and, reflect that the current approaches that we are deploying to address security concerns, are they adequately addressing these issues? What are the intelligence mechanisms, that you need to put in place to really get information on how crime, is happening across various communities? So I think critically it is the model, it is the approach that seems to be a bit defective. We are practically waiting for violence to happen before we then react. We talk about community policing, especially for the police especially. I keep making reference to the police because they have the mandate when it comes to internal security. Community policing is very important. Then intelligence-led policing. We are not emphasizing that so much. Intelligence-led policing is that strategy through which you just want to get intelligence of what is happening in a certain community.
In the southeast, insecurity takes a different dimension. According to authorities, agitators for the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, a separatist group campaigning for Biafra independence, have been responsible for a spate of attacks on security forces and innocent people since December 2020. Olu, a local government in Imo State, has become a flashpoint of trouble in the region. On the 25th of January 2021, many Hausa-speaking traders in a market in Olu were going about their business when gunmen invaded the area, killing some and setting shops ablaze.
It is very, very unfortunate that this kind of thing would happen in 21st century Olu, 21st century Imo, 21st century Nigeria. People are not happy with the things, with the way this country is being run. When you talk about security, there is no security in Nigeria anymore.
We are here at the Islamic Central Mosque, Amafeke, and this is the third Friday without holding a Jumat service here because of insecurity issues. There is a lot of apprehension amongst the Muslim community.
This is my third year living in Olu, and I have never had any ugly experience living here until recently. During the NSAS protest, they burnt our mosque and killed some of our members in some part of Olu town. For 3 weeks now, we have been unable to observe our Jumat prayers in this mosque. We now live in fear. More worrisome is the absence of security operatives in the town. Despite all these incidents, the governor has not visited us to assure us or condole with us.
Since the January attack, Olu has had no peace. The people are in constant fear as these gunmen, time after time, unleash violence, destroy shops, kill, and even behead people in the community. In the southeast and south-south regions at large, dozens of security officials have been killed. Biafra agitation and the violence going on in the southeast have been said to be an untoward way of expressing dissatisfaction about leadership failure on the part of all tiers of government.
Well, I feel that there are many voices in the conversation to deal with the disaffection that people have about the Nigerian state. There are many voices, and evidently his is just one of those voices. But that may not be the optimal route to go. There are so many benefits of a functional, democratic, sound constitutional state. But where there are imperfections, you will now begin to see the voice that Nnamdi Kanu echoes or propagates. War is terrible. Sometimes you think about it from a more glamorous point of view, but it's bloody, it's heinous, it's damaging. It destroys families, societies, and so on and so forth. So my preoccupation is for peace. Okay, peace arrives through legitimate constitutional routes. That is what is most paramount. No society can develop without peace. And in terms of the disaffection of those of us who are from the Southeast goes, there's a need to hear us and to look at our grievances and to consider them on their merits.
The Southeast substantially mirroring Boko Haram. We have not been able to understand and deal with the issue of IPOB. The Igbo leadership allowed IPOB and ESN too much ground to take too much ground to control what is going on in the Southeast. So they misread the threat of organizations like IPOB. There was opportunism, crass opportunism. People thought maybe this IPOB will do for us what we want. They will get for the Igbo what the Igbo didn't get through the political process. And eventually now we are creating a monster. And it's a monster that is eating up the local environment, the same way Boko Haram ate up Borno and Yobe and parts of Adamawa. IPOB and ESN are eating up the Southeast. The federal government is throwing the military at them, the same way they threw the military at Boko Haram, rather than trying to understand the real issue. What is behind IPOB? Who supports them? Why do they support them? What is the issue that has made IPOB attractive to a large number of young people? Can you do something about it? Is it something you need to do about it?
I would say that the Southeast governments can do a whole lot better. The state governments, they can do a whole lot better in delivering services to the various